casually. I'm not talking like,
Yeah, it's the
okay,
best.
so just
Yes.
whatever happens is happening. Okay. Um, so what was I saying? Um, yeah, so the demonic realm, like I was saying, like teaches people like it takes things, and I'll kind of explain like what I was telling Cassie this morning, but it takes things that people say and or sorry, it takes things that God says and God like actually created and put into order and put into place, like because he runs the universe and the spiritual realm on like law and order. It's not just all arbitrary, like it's everything to down to the like most minute detail, even in an unfathomable fathomable scale, even maybe forever is in order. It's mathematical, it's like precise, finely tuned, right? So this means that Satan, he takes parts of it and he mishmashes it and he uses the power of the energy of life. Okay, so people hear energy and they're like, oh my goodness, new age. Like literally God was speaking this to me. And he takes that energy and he uses it for his game, for demonic gain, like for the demonic kingdom. But it's like what he does is he takes Yahweh out of it, and then this is why it ends up being very demonic. So this is why New Age is demonic, because it's taking out Yahweh from it, and then it ends up being so Christians are like, they don't understand. They hear all this is what the Lord was saying. This is not even me, because this is how I used to think too. They see the New Age stuff and they hear the New Age stuff and they say that's evil, that's black, therefore I'm going to do what's white, what's good, what's of God. So then they go to the opposite spectrum, but they don't understand that the what they're seeing is just a mishmash, and it's not the opposite of God. It's taking out God, and it's like having the most delicious drink in a bottle of water and you take out the drink and you just have the bottle and then you put in like acid and then it just looks like it's they're just stripping the Yahweh out of it and they're leaving the energy. And so that's why New Age is all about energy and vibrations, and they worship that. And it's not that that is evil, it's that that is the omission of God. So just you can see an example of this in education and schools. You they say we don't want Yahweh in the schools, we don't want prayer, we don't want all this stuff, but they still have the education there. And what's the result? You have them educating kids about ideologies that just don't matter, or like you're white and so you need to be guilty all the time 24/7. You're now the one who needs to be submissive to the black people, like to us, right? To the minorities, and I'm saying this as a minority, right? And so that's what happens when you take Yahweh out. It's not that education is inherently wrong. The fruit of it is wrong, but the education itself is fine. So it's in the same way. It's like, I know this is God speaking to me because he shows me it first. Like first he shows me him in the Bible. He reveals who he is. And if this ends up going on YouTube, like people can clearly see in the journey he's brought me through it. He's brought me first to him in the Bible. Then he shows me him in creation. Then he shows me what it all means and the inner workings of it. And so he brings me to him first, and then he lays this all on me. And this stuff is like, yeah, it looks like sacred geometry. Okay, it really does. But the problem with sacred geometry again is that they worship the geometry as being the life of everything and the flow of everything, and therefore they come to wrong conclusions. And so and I'll show you how they take out Yahweh. You can actually see it in it. Um, but what he's showing me is that this geometry shows him the creator. It's his signature, and it has actually meaning. Like he was showing me even in a dream last night, he showed me how all of the shapes in it literally like represent who he is, Yahweh is, and his, what he wants for man, and what the purpose of man is, like what this connection between him and man it really is, which is really the gospel of redemption. And he showed me that, and I can't explain this very well because again, like I'm trying to explain really complicated stuff in like verbal language, and it's like multi-dimensional, and I'm trying to, it's literally like 40 plus, and I'm trying to show you it in 2D, which is like the most simple way. So it's like, I don't mean I'm trying to make it simple. I just mean that that's the only way I can literally draw it. I literally cannot draw 3D, like, you know? So I'm trying not to diminish it, but he basically showed me in the dream, for lack of a better word, how every single aspect of these, they're called like the hotam, if I'm saying it properly, the Hebrew, in Hebrew it's called the seal. And we talked about it before, how the word seal literally has the cross in it. It has the word for mem, which is water, which is heavens, as we know. It's the heavens, aka radiation, aka Yahweh's glory. And it has a couple other things that I forget for now, but I've said this before already. So it's literally representative of the heavens. It's representative of dimensions of, you know, this is very foundational. Like 12 is there's 12 of them. They're very foundational. They represent, you know, in a way, birth and life. And it also, he showed me, it represents time. And the time, it's a fractal. Like these seals are a fractal, and they go forever, but it's broken up into 12 parts. And this is why, and each one is really infinite. So time is infinite. It's just that we perceive it broken up. We perceive it by calculating and by analyzing. And that's how this time that is really not time, it's forever, is time to us in a way. And I know it sounds confusing, but I'll show you. And so anyway, so in this dream, he's showing me how every single aspect of it is of him. Like literally, he's like encoded into the meaning of everything. So I don't know if, and so like, I don't know how to explain this verbally, like, but people are welcome to look this up. Like, you guys are welcome to look this up. There's something called a Taurus Field, and it's basically, again, like getting into verbiage that people get triggered at. It's basically energy fields that look like the magnetic field around the earth, and it's a donut shape. It's actually a sphere. And so I remember I told you guys, I said, I was like, the earth is a sphere because we perceive it as 3D people. We perceive it as a 3D shape, which is a sphere. But the 2D shape of a sphere is a circle. And so then a 4D shape, I was like telling you guys that God was showing me somehow that a 4D shape of a sphere is actually like an hourglass. And so then I was saying, it's not like the hourglass where it looks like a teardrop shape that meets in the middle, but it's actually two spheres, and the spheres are actually one on top of each other. And so I was like trying to tell Cassie the best way to think about it is in Interstellar. Am I rambling too long? Am I going too long?
No, you're good. Just keep talking. Keep going.
Okay. Okay. In Interstellar, you have a scene where they're in a ship and they're flying towards the wormhole. And the wormhole, so if you think about a wormhole, you think about it as a hole on a 2D piece of paper, right? And so you go into the hole and you fall down. Well, if you take, so a hole on a 2D piece of paper is a 2D circle. So if you take a 2D circle and you make it 3D, what shape is it? It's a sphere. So that's why in the movie scene, they're going towards the wormhole, and the wormhole looks like a sphere. And so what happens is they go into the wormhole, they actually orbit, and it's just like orbiting a planet. You orbit it, and then you start to fall towards it. And that would be akin to saying going into the hole, and then they come out of the other side. So a wormhole, remember, is like one, just think about the sphere being a door or a portal on one place, and then like a bajillion light years away, there's another door, which is another sphere in that area. Okay. And this huge distance is literally nothing, because it like transports you from one place to another. So you go in, and what happens when you come out and you look backwards? What would you see? You would see another hole. And so to the human mind, it just seems like two spheres on either side, but it really, in reality, because they're right next, they're right on top of each other, because when you go in one, you come out the other. Like, that's the immediate action. It would be akin to saying an hourglass, because there's two sides, but it's on top of each other. So that is the best way to describe something that's a higher dimension to a 3D person. And so that is what he was showing me, is the 4-dimensional circle. But the difference is, the reason why I kept saying it's like a tesseract is because a tesseract is like a cube, except imagine every single side of the cube, every flat side, every square is actually another cube. So it's like a cube made up of a bunch of cubes. So with a 4D sphere, which is the sphere version of a tesseract, it's like I said, it's like an hourglass, but the hourglass is one on top of another. We just perceive it separated, but it's really together. And then, just like a tesseract is a bunch of spheres made up of a sphere made up of a bunch of spheres, in the same way, the hourglass sphere would be like a flower. It's like a flower. It's like I was saying with the photo app, you got it's splayed out into a flower, all these spheres. Okay, but again, like, you're trying to understand something that's a dimension higher than us, maybe multiple dimensions higher than us, and we're trying to understand it in 3D concepts. So it's all the same. And another way to understand it, before I show you what I did, what the Lord had me do, another way to understand it is, I'm watching this guy, he's a Christian, he's talking about teleportation. Teleportation is literally astral projecting. People hear astral projecting and how Satanists astral project, and they freak out. But they don't understand, again, just like New Age, astral projecting is just simply the term for traveling in the spiritual realm. And so when you're not a Christian and you travel in the spiritual realm, the reason why it's bad is because you're susceptible to everyone in the spiritual realm. And so if you're an atheist and you're rejecting God, or you're a Satanist and you're rejecting God, and you're going into the spiritual realm, you're not going to be seeing God there. You're going to be seeing demons and spirits who might pretend to be good, but whatever, they're all not of God. If you're a Christian and you're surrounded by God's glorious light, and you're sealed and protected by the Holy Spirit, and God calls you to astral project, like, you don't do it illegally. As God says, like, everything is by his design and by his will, that we submit to him as the king. So if he says, I want you to go, like, he does do this to some Christians, not often, because probably most Christians cannot handle this mentally or physically, but he will sometimes call people to go into somewhere and to, take down, altars, satanic altars, not physical altars, just spiritual altars that they put up in the spiritual to consecrate a region to Satan, or go in, or just whatever. Like, they'll do their missions. I've heard of guys who said they went in and they saw the angels chained up under the Euphrates or whatever, and that God called them to bind their influence or something. I don't remember exactly. It was on Sid Roth. It was a Sid Roth, I think, yeah. And an example of this in the Bible, because people get all, freak out about the Bible stuff. Is it in the Bible? Even though this is all clearly in the Bible. But anyway, one example was, I was telling Cassie about that guy who, I don't remember who it was it Jeremiah or something? He said he went into the hole in the wall, and there's some hole in the wall, and he went into it, and he saw strange fire being burned to the Lord, and it was like desecrating
Elijah.
Okay, he was desecrating God's temple. They were desecrating God's temple in secret, and it was like, I guess, underground or under it, and tunnel, I don't know where, like in some strange room, like locked away room. And basically God was saying, see how they push me away from my, like, his place, his rightful place, right? And so I've heard of people who did studies on this, and they're saying they believe he was actually going in the spirit. He was not actually physically going there. This is why he's able to go into like the deep recesses of or wherever they were doing it behind the scenes, right? And so anyway, so point is, why did I start talking about astral projection? Oh, so this guy was talking. So anyway, so he's talking about teleporting, which is astral projection or traveling in the spiritual realm. He said he was talking about Ezekiel's wheel, and it's very interesting because he's talking about it from his perspective about how it, like, when it turns, it's almost like a spiral. And he was saying it's like DNA. And I was like asking God. So before I drew all this stuff, I was asking God, I was like, why? I've heard of the spiral kind of imagery. I understand it with the Fibonacci, sequence. I understand it with golden ratio, with the DNA, with all this stuff. But I was like, something like, how does that tie into what I know you've been showing me with all this circle stuff? Like everything is circles, everything is spheres with you, because it's the most symmetrical thing in the entire universe. It is a perfect sphere. There's nothing else like that. It's very special. And so then he showed me it's like a spiral is like time. So if you read Ezekiel, you see the Ophanim are described as wheels. And there's two ways to describe. Let me take out my retainer, sorry. They're described in two ways. They're described as a wheel, and they're also described as a whirling wheel. But the whirling wheel is also a synonym for heavens. So that's why we did that whole study on how the throne of God is like the Mazzaroth, right? And so the Ophanim and the cherubim are like the actual Mazzaroth. They're like a conceptual version in a being. And so then it's like he was showing me that when the wheels turn in the language in Hebrew, it's like insinuating the dust. It's like the wheels of a chariot, and when they ride along the dust of the earth, the dust is kicked up and there's chaff blown everywhere, and that's the wicked being blown away, just inherently in the language. So it's like when the wheels turn of the Ophanim, they kick up the dust and they cause the earthquakes. And remember, the dust is like man. And so it's essentially akin to saying God humbles the man because he's just in a tizzy. And so basically, he's talking about these wheels turning. He's talking about this spiral thing. And it's like the Bible is clearly differentiating between the wheels turning and the wheels still. And so then he's showing Cassie and I how the wheels turning is like time, and time is purification. And God's chariot throne is also a mirror of the altar, which I talked about in my live video. It's a mirror of the altar where you have the four horns, and inside you have the burning coals, which are also a word for tiles. And like it says in Ezekiel, the platform where God's throne sit is like a tiled looking thing. That also John Fenn talked about that. He said it looked like tiles, but it's otherworldly tiles. And I actually think the tiles are like this, which I'll show you in a second. But so then you can understand that time is like purification. And so as the wheels turn, time, because the wheels are like the Mazzaroth, as the Mazzaroth turns, as time passes, then the time is purifying, but it's like step by step. So that's kind of what McKenna was talking about when you have the mikvah. And again, you get the water imagery, and the water is also a mirror and a synonym of the heavens, because it's also a mirror and a synonym of radiation. And then you got these hotam, which are have the letter of water, and so it's basically showing and the cross, right? It's showing the gospel and the water. And I gotta find actually what else they equal. Like it's because I want to say it actually in here. Hold on to like 10 seconds. Oh, so it's water. It's 8. Oh, right. So then I'll talk about 8. I'm sure Cassie will want to say something too, but 8 equals the Mazzaroth that he showed us. And he showed, it's really important. The 8, it means something really specific to us. And I know you guys like got to hear this, okay? So it's really cool. So remember Hotam, which is seal, if I'm saying that properly, sorry, or improperly. So it equals water, which is the heavens. And also God's, Yahweh's Shekinah glory. It equals 8, which is the Mazzaroth. It equals Vav, which is the nail. So the gospel, and the cross, which is Tav. So you got like it's literally like gospel heavens, time, purification. And so then I'm like understanding, why the spiral. So basically the spiral is like time. So if you think about DNA is actually multidimensional, more than 3D. And it's like, as one of the aspects of it is that as time passes, it actually changes. And so the DNA will then instruct or whatever the cells in a different manner. And like as time passes. And so this is like, you get that spiral imagery there. And then with these ophanim, these wheels, these seals, chotam or whatever, as they turn, you get the spiral imagery, because a spiral is like, it's like the solar system. If you've seen imagery of the solar system and the planets orbiting around the sun, it looks like circles. Except the reality is that the sun is moving actually quite fast, like through the Milky Way. It's also orbiting the center of the Milky Way. And so what it actually looks like, if you press play, like imagine you're like the Sims, and the solar system is like upright, and it starts moving forward, and everything's orbiting around it, and you sped it up. What does it look like? It actually looks like spirals. So yes, it's circles, but it's also spirals. I hope I'm making sense. Should I move on? I don't know if I'm sounding rambly.
Yes, you're doing.
Yes, you're making
No,
sense. Keep going.
Okay.
We are
Keep
all
going.
intrigued.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I'll show you what he do it. But okay. So then, oh great, it's going backwards. Is it going backwards for you guys?
I heard keep going.
Okay, let me just quickly. It's mirroring my videos. It's making me really like hard to. Okay, there we go. So then I was like, I know that God is speaking to me somehow, that there's 12 of these. I have no, like, again, this is let me put this on a better paper. This is all God, because like he's just speaking so much yesterday to me, and he's like, there's 12. Like somehow I know that there's 12 of these Hotam seals, right? Maybe I should call them like heavenly seals. I don't know, seals of God. But anyway, so I make this long thing, and I don't know what they look like. And I'm just like, I know they just vaguely something like this, right? So it goes from nothing, because you can't make a pointed one, because it's just a point, right? So then I just put nothing. So this is the rough copy, so ignore that circle. But it goes from 1 like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, until it gets to the really complicated one, which I'll show you the final copy in a bit. But basically, it's like he showed me the base, and he showed me that every single one. So if you have one, you have 1 point, and it would be 1 circle, but it doesn't. It's nothing, because it's supposed to be like a star or something. Okay. If that makes sense. So therefore you can't have a 1-pointed star, and you can have a line. So I decided, like, through the Holy Spirit, I felt like a line is fine, but it would be each point of, because it's 2 points, 1, 2, each point would be 180 degrees away from each other. Okay, each point here on 3 would be 120 degrees away, 40, 72. It keeps going all the way up till 30. The end 12 is 30. Okay, 30 degrees each one. This is why this is the Mazzaroth, and I'll get into that in a second, because 30 degrees, like I told you guys before, with this thing, the OG, every constellation is 30 degrees apart, okay, on a 360 circle of 12. And so then I'm like, okay, I feel like God's on me, like so strong. I feel like this is true, but I'm like, what? I'm like, God, I got to know, like, how are these supposed to actually look? So then he showed me, well, first he started like here. He showed me that this, okay, I didn't know this before. He showed me that this old Mazzaroth that he did, I did 2 stars of David. I told you guys, like, the Holy Spirit came on me so strong. I did 2 stars of David mirrored, and it's 8 points. It equals to an 8-pointed star. So remember the 8 with the hotam, like, and the letter 8 is in there, or sorry, the number 8 is in there. So I was like, I thought the Mazzaroth is just made up of like stars of David. That's how you create it. Like, that's the basis shape for it. It's the Star of David. And I was like, that makes sense, because remember I was telling you guys the star, like, God was showing me that the Star of David is like the base. It's like, imagine a molecule is a Star of David, and a human body is like all of reality as we see it, right? So the Star of David is like the building block. And so then he showed me, I was like, well, God, you've been showing me how everything is made of circles. I remember you showed me in the dream. Yes, I can. Okay, yes, I'll do that. So he showed me in a dream, let me just take a picture for Denise. He showed me he showed me in the dream that everything with time is a circle. So then I'm like, okay, but how come I'm still like wondering about the lines inside, like the Star of David? I'm like, well, Star of David is made up of lines. It's not really made up of circles. So then is everything just made up of a Star of David? Like, I'm getting confused like that. Okay, here. So then he showed me this. And also, let me find it. She also showed me this. Like, I drew this without knowing anything about the sacred geometry stuff. The reason why I know about it now is because I showed my husband, and he started looking into it, and he found out about something called seed of life, okay, where they do something similar. But I didn't know, like, I drew this because God showed me it, okay? So I just want to say that. So as you can see that these circles, when you draw out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 circles, it actually, and then you connect the circle where it connects to the big circle, you draw a line to each one, it makes a Star of David. Okay, that's why it's a Star of David, because the Star of David is actually made up of circles. It's kind of, if that sounds confusing, it's kind of like saying we see cells and we thought cells were everything. We thought cells are the building block of life. And then we got a better microscope and we looked closer and we found out that atoms make up molecules, which make up proteins, which make up cells. So we start digging more and more and more, and we find out at the very base level, it's actually more building blocks. So I thought it was the Star of David, but he's showing me it's actually circles. So then I drew I was like, if this is 6-pointed star, which is the Star of David, what's the 12-pointed star? Because I know that's the Mazzaroth, because it's 12 positions on it. Well, I put 12 circles, concentric circles, and I realized it makes a flower. So that's what I was like, that's why he said I'm the center of the Mazzaroth and I'm the flower, because at the center there's literally a flower when you put 6, and it's actually one flower and then another flower, and then the next flower right there. I guess there's actually more. There's 1 here, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's actually 5 flowers in one. But as you start getting more complicated, it's just a fractal. It'll go forever. So anyway, so where was I going with this? So yeah, so basically I found out this is how you draw a Mazzaroth. And this is why there's 12 positions. You get 1, 12, 3, 6, and 9. That's the Mazzaroth. And it's made up of completely of circles. So then I was like, okay, God, well, what's with the lines? Why does, like, for example, the satanic pentagram, I'm like, okay, well, you showed me, okay, I'm just going to zoom in. You showed me, God, that there's 12 of them, and I drew them all out. And so, you go 1 to 12. I don't know if you guys can see that, and I'll try to post it in the chat later. But I was like, God, the satanic pentagram is 5, points, and you showed me that, this is not inherently bad. It's when they turn it upside down and they use it for, like, satanic purposes. They put like a Baphomet face in it or whatever. It's evil. This is why you have like the police badges that are stars, and they're literally like a star, and like kids draw stars, and like stars are not inherently wrong. It's just that they use it upside down, just like the cross. Like the cross is not wrong. It's not an evil symbol. It's a symbol of Christ, but they turn it upside down and make it satanic. So I'm like, well, why do they, like, I remember before, in our last Zoom, I was talking about how they take the pentagram, and it's like God was showing me how the lines it's real. It's like real magic that they do. And the circle around it, they said, like, this Satanist woman wrote in her testimony that it keeps like the demons inside. It's like the border. So then I'm like, wait, let me just show up close. This is a rough copy. I don't know if you guys can see that, but this is the right side up, 5-pointed star. So she was basically saying they turn it upside down, and then they keep the circle around it to be like the border to keep the demons inside. And then they just have lines, no flower, no circles, just the lines, right? They strip it down. So then I was like asking the Lord, like, why do they just have the lines? And then I was like nervous again, because I'm like, well, in my Mazareth, you showed me it's just the lines with the circle and the Star of David. So I was like, is it just the star that's wrong? Because then why would the star be on one of the 12 that I had to draw? And he showed me, let me just, I really hope I'm making sense. I feel like I'm all over the place. He showed me that the circles, they're 360. I told you guys that 360 is literally meaning Yahweh, because 300 is Shin, and 60, I don't remember if 60 equals 15. 60 equals redemption. I told you guys about 15. I'm sure McKenna remembers what I'm talking about. I told you guys it's like the perfect circle of redemption. Yeah, like 15, 15, 15, 15. Like, you guys know how God repeats stuff. So 15 is redemption. It's also 555, which is grace. 15, 15 is like when God's repeating it, like, you got to listen, right? 30, which is 15 plus 15, it equals Lamed, which is the shepherd's crook, which is Christ. 9, 6 equals 15. And remember, I told you guys on the Mazareth, 9 is the bull, 6 is man. And so remember, 9 is the bull. The bull is Aleph, 1, okay? Why is God Aleph, and why also did Satan call himself the bull as Baal? The reason is because the bull means the servant. And so, like I said, I don't know if everyone knows this, some people do, but the servant is basically the true servants are the angels and man. And so the servant should be the servant. But Satan, as a servant of God, decided to become the served. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to become like God. And then so we have the Satanists now, or people who worship Satan unknowingly or knowingly, are servants of God, and they're supposed to be, but they try to become the served. And so they make themselves gods, and that's why they're diviners. But God is the served, and he came down as the servant, like the bull. He came down, he humbled himself to become like the servant in Christ. And so that is why Christ is the most humble man, and why he washed the feet of others. And he says, you have no part in me unless I wash your feet. So he has to become the servant to redeem us and bring us back to the 15:15. So that's what 9:6 means. It means the bull man, the Aleph man, the El man. He's the man. He's the man who is God in the flesh. and he's the served who became the servant, the bull. And so that's what 9-6 means. And 9 plus 6 equals 15. So you got 15 plus 15 equals lamed, which is 30. Okay, 30 plus 30 is 60. So it's really just like saying, it's like the fractal, but of Christ. It's really just all Christ and his redemption, ultimately. So 360 literally points to Yahweh, innately in the numbers. And so why did I start talking about that? So 360 is a perfect circle. Okay, so as you can see, the circle encoded into it is Yahweh, like just completely. It's Yahweh, it's redemption, it's perfection, it's purification, it's Jesus Christ. And so then another thing is too, is as we know, God is perfect symmetry. Why do you think the angels are physically so beautiful? You know, humans find symmetry beautiful. Symmetry is very rare in nature, like pure symmetry. In that sense, you know, like the pure sphere, right? Then you have demons. Whenever they're described as being very ugly, they're very lopsided, they're very funky looking, they don't look right because they're not symmetrical, they're the antithesis of symmetrical. And so another thing too is that I find it very interesting that pi, which is supposed to describe a circle mathematically, cannot actually fully describe the circle, which is why it goes on forever. It's called my brain is blanking, not an imperfect number or something. No, it's called, it's something that, I'm sorry guys, my brain's blanking. Something that doesn't make sense. The word for that. It's basically a word that doesn't
Phenomenon?
make sense. Okay. No, like something that inherently, it's the opposite of making sense. Okay, so basically, yeah, sorry. So it's basically a number that it cannot describe the circle. It's supposed to describe the circle, but it cannot describe the circle perfectly. It's off mathematically. So I just thought it's like a perfect allegory for God, who we can perceive him in a glimpse, but we can never truly understand him. And that's mathematical. But anyway, so then you have this picture of a circle, like I told you, which is also a sphere, which is also an hourglass. And an hourglass flower. And then you have a circle within a circle, right? And there's just 12 of them. So it's like a foundational circle. It's like an echo of a circle, and it forms a flower. And so then I'm thinking about Ezekiel, where he's like, I saw a wheel within a wheel. And if you think about it, you know, I'm sure there's not a lot of things that turn and also are circular. So the best way he's going to be describing it is really a wheel, right? And so it is, in a way, it's like a wheel within a wheel. And so he's showing me, well, how can I show you guys this? My baby's sleeping, so it's hard to show you guys. I wanted to show you what I showed Cassie with the, hold on. So I have a light here. You know what, you can't really see it that well, but I have a light here, and it's kind of like all these lines that are almost spirally around. Okay, and I'm not saying this is the shape of the wheel, or you know, this Hotam seal thing. It's you know, it's obviously like weird, but just imagine it's like a sphere in a way. When you turn the light on, it actually shines above, and I can't show you because it's too bright out today. I really hope you can't see where I live in this video. If somebody can cut that out. Around here, it actually looks like this, but like way more intricate, right? And so then you can understand in that way, I've been telling you guys how the physical realm is a shadow cast of the spiritual realm. And so then you can imagine it. Yes, I'm drawing it on a paper, 2D, and this is why I was frustrated, because it's like a 2D projection of something that's like multi-dimensional. So you can kind of picture that. And let me send you guys, I don't know how we could show people this, but I'll just say it verbally. There's something called a Taurus Field, and this is what it actually looks very similar to this. And a Taurus Field, I had to do a little more research on it, but it basically is the way energy flows around something. And so people hear energy flow and they freak out. Okay, energy is really, it's life. It's literally, God created it. And so the energy, of life flows through everything, but because life got fractured by sin, then the energy gets stopped. It's kind of like very clogged arteries, okay? So it's supposed to flow freely. So God gave me a dream about that, like seeing it flowing freely, and that's the true peace and the true beauty of like heaven and what creation really was supposed to be before the fall. And so, yeah, Cassie posted it, so it'll help you. So basically, you can see a Taurus field actually looks, I don't know if it actually is exactly this. It might be made of magnetic force, electromagnetic. I think it's related to electromagnetism. But the actual magnetic field, when you put a magnet in the center, it looks exactly like this hourglass. It looks like this. And so remember, I was telling you guys about how the Holy Spirit showed me that Jesus is like the electromagnetic field, because it surrounds the earth, right? I feel like this is getting long, but there's so much.
Jess, look at what I just sent in the chat.
Yes. So imagine that, but in the earth. And so they draw it like a donut, but okay. Remember when I told you guys, I was like, the earth is not a sphere. It looks like a sphere to us because that's the 3D shape, and we're 3D people. So we're going to see the shape like the 3D, the third dimension. So that's why it looks like a sphere. But I was telling you guys, it's like an hourglass. So remember, I used the example of the wormhole. So the wormhole, I told you guys, the wormhole is a sphere within a sphere. That's the hourglass. And so I was saying, it's like God gave me like a brainwave or a picture or whatever of the earth when in the tribulation, it's going to be hell on earth. And I said, it's kind of like a Klein bottle. And I said, but not like a Klein bottle. It's like and I said, for lack of a better word, it's like a prolapse, right? The inside comes out. I know that's really horrible. I'm sorry. But I said that to you guys like quite a while ago. And so then it's like the hourglass flipping. When hell comes out onto the surface, it's like the hourglass flipping. And so this shape, it's almost, you could describe it like a donut, but it's not a donut. It's like an hourglass, like I described earlier, but kind of like a donut. And so it's very interesting that this shape, it's the higher dimensional sphere. This shape is around the earth like a magnet, like with a magnetic field, like a giant donut in a way. And it goes in at the north and it flows out at the south. And so then you're getting into all the imagery about the south and the east. Like I told you guys, the south is 6. If you in the esoteric, religions, they talk about how if you compare a human with this donut shape, then it would be akin, like, so Taurus Field, okay? It would be akin to saying that the mouth is at the north and the butthole is at the south, okay? And so it's like everything bad flows out the south. And so that is very interesting because you get the imagery of the cross. You get the sin, that's placed upon Jesus. You get the blood that flows from Jesus down the cross, to purify and cleanse the sin at the mercy seat. Okay, it's not saying like it's all bad, south is bad. That's not the point. The point is to say it's to show the cost. The cross shows the cost. The sacrifices in the Old Testament show the cost of the sin. It's not meant to say like it's some holy picture. It's supposed to show the hardness of what you do. You had, because of your sin, Jesus had to be crucified, the worst death. Okay, and so this is why man is 6, and this is why also Vav, which is the nail, which is also in the word Yahweh, is 6. It's not that 6 is bad. It's that 6 represents the man and the man's foolishness and the man's shortcoming. And so in the same way, that's the picture of the south. And it's very interesting. So you got that. And it looks like the Mazzaroth from the top. Okay. And so then, I'm talking about, this energy field, this Taurus field, where the energy flows in this manner that looks like the Mazzaroth. You have the picture of the electromagnetism and the magnetic field around the earth, where this magnetic field around the earth is like an umbrella. This is why it's like Jesus. Okay. It's like the umbrella of the earth that protects from the radiation that would destroy everything. Okay. And so then I started to get really like, it's really hard for me to explain, because it's like, it's literally tying everything into one thing, because you're tying everything into like literally Yahweh, who's the 12. Okay. Who's the ultimate. Okay. So the Elector, so we can all agree that it's very clear that the Lord is saying that the electromagnetic field and force is likened unto Jesus, who is really the one who comes in and protects us. So like, if the Lord wants us to go astral project, like, I'm not saying he really wants that, but just like, travel in the spirit to like stop the demonic whatever, just hypothetically, like I said, we're sealed with Christ, we're sealed through Christ with the Holy Spirit. And so it's really Christ that's the net ultimately of all humans. He's the net. And so then when you have this idea of the electromagnetic field and, this net imagery, this umbrella imagery, this shielding and protecting, and then you have this imagery of this, circle fractal, who's Yahweh, who's 360, this beautiful 360 redemption Christ imagery. And it literally looks like the electromagnetic field, this magnetic field from the top. Like, how funny is it that you can then impute this understanding onto this, like what the meaning is. So that's what the Lord was showing me. So he showed me, it's like, this is why I was going on about talking about these seals that are almost like seals of protection. They're seals, they're doors. What do you do when you want to like keep something out? You close the door, right? You use your free will to close the door spiritually, or you physically close the door with your hand, right? If you want to open the door and travel from one place to another, and there is that picture of time there, you open the door spiritually or physically. And so this is why it's doors, this is why it's protection, but this is why it's of God, because it's also the picture of Christ and this magnetic field of this umbrella. And so then I'm like, okay, so the circle is inherently representing Yahweh. So if you can understand that, then you can understand. So this is the 12. This is the 12th photon, or what, seal, right? This is the 12 with the lines drawn on it. So then I'm like, what? So again, I'm coming back to the lines. What are the lines meaning? I broke it down here to make it simpler. Like, they're essentially like layered on. There's kind of like a star. There's 3 different main shapes that sprout and flower from the first one to the second one to the third one, kind of like cells. Okay. And so there's 3 different kind of shape themes that kind of flower out and gain more like petals or points or whatever as they go from 1 to 12. And so one of them is like a star. One of them is more like the Star of David that kind of fractally blooms. I'm trying to explain this well. And one of them is like just pure circles. It's the base for the whole thing, is the circles. So again, I'm coming back to what are the lines there for, and why do, like, for example, why do Satanists use just the lines and there's no circles in it, right? They're using, let me go back to the 5-pointed one. So you got the 5-pointed one, there's no circles in there, and it's just the big circle and the star, okay, the lines. Well, okay. The reason why is because I just showed you guys the connection between God, Yahweh, and Christ, and the Holy Spirit in the circle. Then you can also remember this woman I told you guys about, she was the Satanist, and they would so they made the circle with the pentagram on the floor, and they would all sit at the 5 points and then do their incantations, and she said a demon would come out, and she said the demon could not come out. So the demon was summoned through the will, okay? But I told you guys this pentagram obviously had energy, so it was able to power this magic, okay, black magic, evil magic. She said when the demon came out, it was not able to go outside of the circle unless it was told to do it. As you can see in that example, you can see how the circle keeps it in. And so this is a testament inherently, just like the smelling like sulfur is a testament to being under God's purification for eternity. And the ugliness is a testament to being, booted out of God's kingdom. The not being able to go past the circle is a testament to me of God, Yahweh, being the greatest one of all. He's the most powerful, even the demons listen to him. And so why do they just have a pentagram and no circles inside? Because remember, the pentagram is made up of circles. That's how you draw a pentagram. It's the lines, the actual pentagram, the lines are not the actual thing. It's just a representation of what the circles mean. When you take the circles out of the pentagram, it's akin to saying, I'm taking Yahweh out and I'm just having the energy. Because remember, energy is not a seen thing. Energy is, when you have the electromagnetic field, remember that's like Christ, it basically channels energy through it. Like, that is science. Okay, I'm not just making that up. The atoms go through the magnetic field, and it literally, like, if it has enough velocity, it starts torquing. Like, it literally spirals. So you get the spiral imagery again. And so the magnetic field keeps the matter in the spot it's supposed to be. So that's why God is talking about wind tunnels to Mandy. So as you can see, the picture of the circle and of the Mazzaroth and of the 360, this imagery is that it protects, it shelters, it keeps in his creation into where he desires it to be. And this is also the electromagnetic field, which also does the same to matter. And so then when you have a pentagram and you take out the circles, you're basically taking that off, and you're using the energy for your own gain, for your own evil. But here's the thing, is if you take Yahweh out, what did I say at the beginning? You take Yahweh out, you get the demonic. You don't get Yahweh, right? And that's what they want. So it's like the energy is the lines. The energy represents what the circles are putting in. So it's like saying, it's just like when you see Satan, he comes as the angel of light. He uses the ideas and the creation and the energy and the understanding and the knowledge of God, but he takes God out and he calls for worship for him. And this is what it means when God says to men, like, those of you who are men who worship creation, like, I will hand you over to your own heart, and you become like a 666, a man who loves himself. And this is why you have all the issues, like, the beast system and men who have the reprobate mind. And so that, I hope I'm making sense, but that is literally what he showed me about each seal. Why the circles are so, the circle is the foundation. You cannot take it out because it's Yahweh. As soon as you take it out, you don't understand it. And this is why New Age people, they have all the seed of life. They see all the sacred geometry. Okay, he's showing me what it really is, but they have like these fragmented versions. And you know what they do with it? They just say, wow, this is the universe. This is the beauty. This is the power, the energy, fields, and this and that. And they apply it to all these things, but they don't understand what's the point of it all. The point of it all is literally purification, because it's the time. And so he's giving me the picture of, like, when these things are turning as they go from 1 to 12, it's the picture of life, birth, because you got number 1, I told you guys, it's void, it's empty. It's like the egg it's like the void earth. Nothing on it. It's formless and void. Then you get number 2. It looks like mitosis, where you have 2 circles in there. It's like the cell separating, and then it bubbles up, and the flower appears, and the star appears, and the flower blooms, and the star blooms, and it becomes 12, which is like an unto Yahweh. So it's a picture of the Christian like transforming to be like Christ. And so last thing, he's showing me that every single, even degree, I showed you the degrees, right? Like number 2 is 2 points. 2 points is 2 circles. The 2 points on it is 180 degrees away from each other. Like, for example, and I told you guys 12 is 30 degrees. Well, every single one, even the degrees, literally like have a symbolic meaning. For example, and I think Cassie got to talk about this because I feel like I've been talking so long. But for example, number 8, I told you guys it was the Mazzaroth that he originally had me draw way back, the Mazzaroth converter that I sent in the chat. Okay, it's an 8-pointed star because it's a double Star of David. I thought this was the Mazzaroth, and he showed me the Mazzaroth is actually him, which is 12. The 8 Mazzaroth is like the physical representation, because it's honestly simplified. It's the representation that we see in the heavens. He is 12, okay? We don't see that. We can maybe try to get a glimpse. I think we get a glimpse right now, but it's very minute, like a drop in the sea, right? Of water in the sea. So 8 is what we see in the heavens. And because 8 literally represents the journey, and that's why I was like talking with McKenna about understanding the numbers, because 8 at its simplicity means new beginnings, and it's an hourglass, right? And on it, on the facing upward, and a new beginning. You cannot have a new beginning without the old. So it's going from old to new. And I can maybe get into this another time, but I can show you like proof of everything that I'm saying, like on the actual Mazzaroth, how the 8 Mazzaroth that he had me draw is literally like a picture of this redemption, of flipping from one to another, the journey in the wilderness to the purification of us. And you can look into the number 8 with what McKenna sent, but it says that there. And 8, so 8 literally represents our journey as 12, as us, okay? We're like a representation of what God has all Christians go through. And so I think everyone can agree that the number 522 is very special in our journey, right? With May 5th to May 22nd. And I've talked about how the degree on a circle 225 is the perfect mirror of February 15. So those are very, very important numbers. Well, like I said, the degrees are symbolic for each one. So the degrees, let me just quickly show you. The degrees are at every point on the star, there's rays. And as you get to like higher numbers, this one's 6, as you get to 12, the rays spread out. There's more and more rays. 12 has, let me just find it. So as you can see, there's like a bajillion rays for each one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Lift it up a little,
9, 10,
Jess.
11, 12. I guess there's 12 there. Anyway, and so every ray is, he showed me that in a dream too. Every ray is, it's symbolic, and the amount is equal to the degrees that each one is that I told you guys. Like how, so basically it's mathematically precise. Okay, it's like this is a portion of this, and is a portion of this, is a portion of this. Okay, so it's all mathematically symmetrical. So the rays on the 8, if you count, if you measure how much one is, I'm sorry guys, I'm trying to describe this. Okay, maybe I should just draw it really quick. So you have your circle, and you just say there's 1 point. This is the 8-pointed star. Okay, there's 8 points, and the rays, one point should travel to the next point. Just say, maybe I just say there's 8 dots. Okay, you know what? I'll just draw it. There's 8 dots. 1 dot should travel to the other dot in perfect straight lines. Okay, like this. Okay, it does this 8 times. So this one would do the same thing. Okay, and so forth. That's how you draw the lines. Okay, that's how they all correlate. And each point would be another circle,
Hey,
like this. Okay,
We can't
So-
see it very well.
is that better?
Yep.
Do you want me-
Move your camera up a little. North.
Do you want me to
Yeah,
redraw
there
it
you
because
go.
that just looks like a scribble? You guys got it or?
Yeah.
Okay, so then let me just draw it one more time, simpler. So you guys get the point. You have the one dot, it rays out. Okay, he showed me this in the dream, like it literally has a symbolism. So this line is curved. It makes the perfect circle, 360 circle. You would draw a straight line where this meets. This is 180 degrees. If you would then like count each section, the degrees add up to 180. Well, for the 8-pointed star, each section is 2, 2, 5 degrees. Okay, and it is times 8. And that equals 180. And so literally like God was showing us, Cassie and I, that this 8 Maseroth, this one, is our journey as 12, like that he's taken us through 1 year. And so this is the purification, the mikvah that McKenna was talking about. Well, as we talked about, 225 is the equivalent to February 15. 225 is 3, which is the equivalent of 9. Well, and 6, right? And 12, which is literally Jubilee. Well, how crazy is it that 8, the 8th seal, is 225 degrees 8 times? That's the geometry that makes up the seal. Okay? The seal's here. The geometry that makes it up is literally made up of 225. I mean, I hope I'm making sense, but I think I've drove the point home. I mean,
That's amazing.
it's crazy. That is proving that everything that we've experienced is literally of God. So, what do you guys think? I
Amen.
don't know. Am I making it?
That's
Have I made
amazing.
sense or?
Yes, you made sense. That was amazing, Jess.
There's so much more.
Just that was amazing.
Yeah, it makes me want to like cry because I'm like, you can be sure without a doubt that the blueprint of literally reality and creation is, we're going through it. Like it's like embedded into creation and mathematics. It's not like, oh, our world in our little bubble, he's doing this thing. No, it's like everything he's doing in our lives is literally like mathematically perfect. Well, I know Andrew says that, but like it literally is geometrically perfect. It's just in everything. So we're following his blueprint. So it's crazy. It's mind-boggling, really.
It's so amazing. I can't even find words. He literally
so-
just like continues to prove that it's him over and over in such huge ways like this.
I know. And Mandy, I went on her channel today because I was like wanting to, bust out some debate and debating or whatever. But I saw her comments, and I'm again reminded about all the crap, because I don't read my comments because I know they're horrible probably. But I'm like, just the crap we've dealt with, like just from even May 22nd, that was really rough. And it's just like he's showing literally how this proves it.
Yeah,
How this proves
this
everything.
is amazing.
Yeah, and remember 9 is the fruit of the spirit. Remember I told you guys that the ninth seal represents the seventh seal, and the seventh seal is God being silent and then rapture. And so then you would see that the ninth seal is really representing, when I say seal, sorry, I meant hotam. The hotam represents the seventh revelation seal, where, you know, God's silent, and then there's rapture. And so that represents the ninth seal, which represents right now. So I literally think like the ninth and eighth seal is a picture of God like removing the chaff from the grain, right? Because what he does is he confuses people. Like this is what we were talking about earlier with certain people who left the group. He confused people and made them frustrated with his complexity, not because he wants to make them frustrated, because he wants to show who is really pursuing him and seeking, like despite the trouble. Who is putting aside? Because frustration is a sign of the flesh. So who's walking in the spirit? So this is what 9 means. This is why 9 means the fruit of the spirit. And so how funny is it that the 9 literally is 522, because 5 + 2 + 2 = 9. And 522 is Galatians 5:22, which is the fruit of the spirit. And so how crazy is it that 8 inherently in the geometry, in the degrees, is 225 again? It's like he's screaming at people through his creation, like this situation, like us, the example of, I think he's using us as the case study or the example for all these things. So anyway, it's just, people don't see it, so then they get mad and they say, oh, you this and that and what, and they just miss the point. They're proving God's point, that they're so angry and so frustrated and they cannot get out of the flesh, and they're letting the flesh rule them. That's why you don't see God getting in a tizzy when people, you know what, people will even blaspheme God and he doesn't get in a tizzy. He laughs. It says in the Bible he laughs. And so why does he not get in a tizzy? Because he's not in the flesh whatsoever. He doesn't care. He's the king, right? He's not in the flesh. He's 100% of spirit in perfection. And so he doesn't get in a tizzy. So it doesn't matter if people think, oh, Mandy's fake. You're all fake. You're all false. You guys are lying. 522. You guys said 522. And he's literally trying to tell them, you're in the flesh. The fact that you're so upset right now. But anyway. I gotta stop talking because.
Wow, thank you,
That was
Jess.
very well put, Jess. Thank you.
That was amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, very, very cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah.